I never thought I'd be the guy writing about something like this, but here I am. My wife Emma and I had just celebrated our 5th wedding anniversary. We'd planned that trip for months, some fancy resort by the coast, candles, wine, the whole romantic package. I wanted it to be perfect, a real reset after a tough year, but nothing about that weekend was perfect. I remember walking into the hotel room that night, feeling that excited buzz we always get when we disconnect from everything. I was about to surprise her with a bottle of champagne. The door was slightly ajar and I pushed it open quietly. That's when I saw him. There was this man, clearly her boss, big guy, broad shoulders, a smirk that didn't quite reach his eyes. He was half naked, leaning over her, hands on her waist, lips pressed to her neck. My stomach sank so hard I almost doubled over. I didn't think, just froze there, watching. She saw me first. Her eyes widened, panic flickering across her face like a bad movie. The guy turned, and I saw the way they both stiffened. Emma's cheeks went ghostly pale, her fingers clutching at his shirt, like she was holding onto something to stay upright. I could smell the alcohol on her breath, see the lipstick smudged where he'd kissed her neck. What I now realized was a clear sign of how long this had been going on. I wanted to scream, to punch something, but instead I just stood there, rooted to the spot, the pain making my head spin. For a second I thought I was going to collapse. My hands were clenched so tight, my nails dug into my palms. I could hear myself whispering, "What the hell?" She tried to cover herself, scrambling for her clothes, but it was too late. The scene was burned into my brain. I saw the guilty look, the trembling hands, the way she kept avoiding my eyes. That's when I noticed the text message on her phone, an unread message from her boss saying, "Can't wait to see you tonight, babe." I'd never been so furious and so lost all at once. The next moments are a blur. I remember her trying to explain, saying she was drunk, that it was a mistake, that she loved me. But everything about her words felt hollow, rehearsed, like she'd been planning her escape long before I ever found out. It wasn't just that she cheated, it was the way she lied about everything, even our future, like I was some character in her little story, not her husband. That day I learned the truth in a way I'd never wanted to. The woman I loved, the woman I promised my life to, had been lying to me for months. The trust I'd built, gone, turned to dust in that one moment. And the worst part, she'd been planning her exit, her move with him. All those dreams we shared, all those happy future plans, fake. Just words she'd uttered to keep me from catching on. I knew I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what. Part of me wanted to just walk away, never look back. Another part, that's the part that started plotting, that started noticing the little things I'd ignored. Her secret phone calls, the late nights, the way she'd close her laptop quickly whenever I'd come near. I was starting to see the cracks in her story. And trust me, they were wide enough to walk through. I sat there, trembling, staring at her trembling form, feeling my heartbeat pounding like a drum. I knew this wasn't just about her cheating, this was about betrayal on every level. She lied to me, lied about our future, lied to herself. That's what cut the deepest. I could see her trying to hold it together, but her eyes kept darting to the door as if she were already planning her escape route. I didn't say a word. I just looked at her, cold and heavy inside, and knew the fight was only just beginning. After I saw what I saw, everything else felt like a distant hum. I was almost outside myself, watching this nightmare unfold. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. All I could do was stand there and feel this burning, sick rage building in my chest. My stomach twisted, and my palms were sweaty, but my mind was clear enough to start thinking straight for once. I needed a plan. I couldn't just walk away with my heart shattered, not without making sure she paid for this. I knew her too well. She would try to lie her way out, deny everything, and pretend it was all some terrible misunderstanding. That's what she'd been doing all along, after all, lying about the little things that added up to the big one. When I finally found my voice, it was rough, like gravel. "Emma," I said, voice low but firm, "who the hell do you think you're fooling?" She looked like she wanted to crawl into the floor, her eyes darting around, looking for an escape. "You lied to me about everything, our future, our plans, everything." "Why?" She tried the usual excuses. "I was drunk. It didn't mean anything. I love you, I swear." But I wasn't buying any of it. I told her, "You think I'm stupid. You think I don't see what you're doing, planning your getaway. I found your phone with messages from him. You were going to leave me, weren't you?" My voice cracked just a little, but I kept going. You've been lying all along, Emma. You've been pretending we're building a life while secretly planning your escape. Well, I'm not going to let you walk away that easily. She looked like a cornered animal, trembling, tears pooling in her eyes. But I wasn't about to feel sorry for her, not anymore. She'd done enough damage. I knew I needed to act, and I needed the upper hand. I started thinking about how this all could play out, what kind of revenge made sense. Whatever I did, it had to be calculated, and it had to sting enough to make her regret the mess she'd made. The first thing I did was grab her phone. It was open on the screen, full of messages from her boss, flirty, suggestive, clearly more than just professional. I took a quick snapshot of the screen with my phone, knowing I'd need evidence. Then I turned to her and said, "You're not walking away from this without consequences. I'm done pretending I don't see the truth now." I started to plot in my head how to expose her, how to hit her where it hurt. It wasn't just about maybe destroying her reputation. It was about making her finally understand that she'd crossed a line she couldn't undo. I decided that I'd gather more proof, screenshots of her secret messages, her plans with him, and then I'd confront her again in a way she wouldn't expect. But for now, I kept my voice cold. "You've been lying to me for months. I trusted you. I loved you, and you threw it all away because of some stupid affair." I looked her straight in the eyes, the pain and anger swirling inside me. "You think I'm just going to walk away? No, you've made it personal. You're going to wish you never crossed me." Her voice cracked and she whispered, "Please don't do this. I love you. I can fix this." That line made me laugh bitterly. Fix it? No, she'd already broken everything. "You've already broken us," I said, "and I'm going to make sure you pay for it." I stormed out of that room with her crying behind me, my stomach still churning. I knew then that I wasn't just going to confront her with words. I was going to make her feel the loss of me, the betrayal she'd inflicted, in a way that she'd never forget. That was the plan, to make her regret choosing him over us, over everything we had. I went straight to my car, pulled out a small flash drive I'd prepared, and started copying all the evidence I had, screenshots, messages, everything. I knew I couldn't let her get away with this, not without a fight, and I wasn't planning a silent one. I wanted her to understand exactly what she'd done and how much she'd lose if she kept lying. The next step was clear. I was going to confront her again with everything in my possession. I needed her to see in black and white what she'd betrayed. My mind raced, thinking about how I'd finally get her to face the consequences. Because trust me, I was done playing nice. I spent the next few days in a fog. Every time I thought about what I'd seen, my stomach clenched. That scene was burned into my memory like a bad tattoo I couldn't scrub out. I knew I had to act fast, but I also needed to be smart. Emma was slippery, she'd lied so much. I didn't trust her to own up without a fight. I kept the evidence close, hidden in a secure folder I accessed only when I needed to review it. I also started digging into her recent phone activity, calls, texts, emails. I knew her boss's name, Jason, but I needed more proof. The sneaky part of me wanted her to slip up again, and I knew was capable of it. One afternoon, I found a few more messages on her email drafts, some suggestive, some outright plans to leave town. She was writing things like, "Tonight's the night we finally get out, and don't forget the fake IDs." My blood ran cold. I hadn't realized she'd been planning this for weeks, maybe longer. I decided to lay low for a bit while I formulated my next move. I wanted her to think she still had control, that she could lie her way out of this. But I was ready. I had the evidence and I had the resolve to deliver it. Then one evening I came home early from work. I'd planned it that way. I wanted to catch her in the act again, or at least catch her off guard. The house was silent and I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator. I slipped into the bedroom where I found her packing a small bag, her eyes red and swollen. She looked more scared than guilty, which only made me angrier. Her voice cracked when she saw me. "You're home early." "I save it," I cut her off. "I know everything. Emma, about the affair, the lies, about how you're planning to leave me." I pulled out the flash drive, letting her see it. "This has all the proof, and I'm tired of being your fool." She stared at it, her hands trembling. "Please listen." "No," I said sharply. "I've heard enough. You've lied to me about everything, our future, our life, us. But I'm done being your backup plan. I want the truth now. Are you leaving or not?" Her eyes welled up again and she looked like she was trying to find an excuse, some clever way out. But she knew she'd been caught. I saw it in her face, the way her shoulders sagged. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. I want you out of this house tonight and I want the keys. You can take your stuff, but I'm done playing the fool. You've made your choice. Now I make mine. The look she gave me cut me deep. She was trying to beg, to plead, but I couldn't bring myself to listen. I wanted her gone, to start healing or whatever that meant after this mess. Before she could argue, I handed her the keys and told her to pack her things. You're not getting a second chance, I said coldly. This is the end of the line. I watched her leave, her bag swinging loosely from her hand. As she shut the door behind her, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. A weight I'd been carrying for months finally lifted. But I knew this wasn't the end. Not quite yet. I still had that evidence, and I knew Emma wasn't done trying to spin her story. That night I sat alone in the quiet house. I kept replaying everything, her betrayal, her lies, her plan to run. It was a sickening feeling, like I'd lost a part of myself. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I'd finally taken control. I'd made her face her choices, and I'd set the course for what came next. There's a strange, bitter comfort in knowing I'd done everything possible to protect myself. And I realized that sometimes the only way to truly move on is to cut the cord completely. No more secrets, no more lies, just a blank slate waiting to be written anew. The morning after she left, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the pile of her belongings that she'd hastily packed and left behind. My hands were cold and my mind kept racing through everything I'd uncovered. The evidence was stacked neatly on my laptop: screenshots of her messages, her email drafts, photos of the hotel room, and the texts from Jason. It was all there, irrefutable. I didn't plan to just sit on this. No, I wanted her to feel the full weight of what she'd done. That meant exposing her, making sure everyone knew the kind of person she was. She'd spun her lies, manipulated me, and planned her escape under my nose. Well, I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not without a fight. I decided the best way to do this was to send her proof to her boss, Jason. I knew him well enough. He'd be just as shocked as I'd been to realize she'd been planning to leave with him. I pulled out her phone, logged into her email, and carefully sent the evidence to his address. I also made sure to include a message that simply read, "Here, what you need to know, and don't bother trying to deny it." It felt satisfying to do that, but I wanted more. I wanted her to realize that she'd lost everything: her job, her reputation, even her standing with her boss if this got out. I knew how the game worked. People like her, they think they can manipulate everything until it's too late. Next, I contacted a lawyer. I wanted to know my options: divorce, separation, whatever would hit her hardest. I didn't want to drag this out for too long. I just wanted her out of my life and the damage done to be clear. The lawyer confirmed I could file for divorce based on infidelity and emotional betrayal, especially with the evidence I held. I also thought about the emotional toll. I'd lost a lot that day: my trust, my future plans, my sense of security. But I also felt a strange clarity. I'd been living in a fog of her lies for months, maybe longer. That fog had finally cleared. Now I could start rebuilding on my own terms. While I waited for her response, or reaction, I decided to look around the house. Everything still looked the same, but I noticed small things I'd overlooked before. Her perfume on the pillow, the faint scent of cigarettes she'd smoked when she thought I wasn't home. Little clues that she'd been sneaking around, hiding her lies in plain sight. I could feel the hardness growing inside me, this drive to make her regret everything she'd done. Suddenly my phone buzzed. It was her. I hesitated, then answered. Her voice was shaky, trembling. "Please, can we talk?" she begged. I didn't want to talk to her, not yet, but I also knew I'd have to. "No," I said coldly. "You made your choice. I'll consider talking once I see some real accountability from you. Until then, stay away from me." There was silence on the line, then she whispered, "You're overreacting. I love you." I cut her off. "Love? You're the one who betrayed everything we had. Don't call me again until you're ready to face what you did." I hung up before she could reply, feeling a strange sense of finality. That day, I realized I'd crossed a line I'd never thought I would. I'd gone from trusting her blindly to planning my revenge and setting boundaries she'd never see coming. I knew she'd try to contact me again, maybe to lie, maybe to manipulate, but I was done being the fool. In the end, I decided to change the locks the very next morning. I couldn't risk her trying to come back, to worm her way into my life again. I was done with her lies, her schemes, her betrayal. Her key was gone, and so was her hold on my heart. That act felt like closing a chapter I never wanted to open in the first place. As I sat there, staring at the empty doorway, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I'd lost her, sure, but I'd gained something too, clarity. I knew I couldn't fix what she'd broken, but I could rebuild my life. I could start over without the weight of her lies dragging me down. And maybe, just maybe, I would find happiness again. Days turned into a week, and I found myself immersed in a strange new world, one where I finally had space to breathe deeply without that weight pressing down on my chest. I spent a lot of time alone, walking through the quiet house, feeling the emptiness where her things used to be. That emptiness was sharp, but it was also freeing. I kept monitoring my phone. I wasn't expecting any calls, but I knew she'd try to reach out, probably with tears, apologies, maybe some new lie. I had set boundaries, cut her off completely, and I wasn't going to back down. The evidence I'd sent her boss had definitely shaken things up. I had a feeling she'd be scrambling to save what was left of her career, and maybe her reputation. One afternoon, I sat in my living room staring at the pile of her stuff. I wasn't planning to throw anything away yet, but I was ready to move on. I found my mind drifting to the old days, how we used to laugh, how she used to hold my hand. Now that felt like a distant memory, like a movie I'd watched but couldn't quite believe was real. Then my phone vibrated. I hesitated, then looked at the screen. It was her. I almost didn't want to answer, but I knew I had to hear what she had to say. With a deep breath, I pressed accept. "Listen," she started, voice trembling. "I know. Screwed up, I was wrong, I was stupid. Please, just can we talk? I want to fix this." I felt my stomach tighten again. I'd heard this type of plea before, but this time it felt different, more desperate. I decided to keep my voice cold, distant. "You had your chance, Emma. I've seen everything now. The messages, the plans. You weren't just cheating, you were planning to leave me, to run away with him. Don't come back here with some fake apology. I'm not interested." Sniffled, trying to hold back tears. "I swear I love you. I only did it because I was scared, because I thought I'd lose everything. Please, I want to make it right." I shook my head, feeling the same anger coil inside. "You think I don't see what you're doing? You're just trying to manipulate me again. I've got enough evidence, Emma. I'll tell you what's making me angry. It's that you thought I'd be stupid enough to buy your bullshit after all this. You lied, you cheated, and you betrayed everything we built. I don't want to hear your lies anymore." There was silence on the other end. I knew. She was crying, but I didn't care. I'd heard enough. My mind was made up. I wanted her gone, not just physically, but emotionally. I wanted her to feel the pain she'd caused without me being the one to do the hurting. "I'm moving on," I told her plainly. "You can try to contact me again, but it's pointless. I don't want to hear another word from you, ever. You're out of my life, Emma, for good." She tried to plead one last time, voice cracking. "Please." "Goodbye," I interrupted, and I hung up. A part of me felt empty, like I'd lost something I once thought was forever. But deep down, I knew that holding onto her would only keep dragging me back into that chaos. It was time to finally let go. Later that evening, I picked up her keys, her clothes, her jewelry, all that remained of her, and put it into a box. I carried it out to the trash, watching her things disappear into the dumpster. It was a small act, but it felt symbolic, like I was finally closing that chapter for good. As I watched her belongings vanish, I realized this was a turning point. I'd taken control, faced the betrayal head-on, and walked away. No more lies, no more secrets, just a fresh start waiting for me. The worst was behind me now, and I was going to rebuild, stronger, wiser, and more cautious than ever. And somehow, even with all the pain, I felt a flicker of hope kindling inside. If I could survive this, I could survive anything. The days that followed were the strangest of my life. I knew I'd made the decision to cut her out, to finally break free from the suffocating lie of what we'd been. Still, walking through the house alone was surreal, like I was in a film, watching myself from the outside. Every corner, every piece of furniture seemed to whisper reminders of what I'd lost. But I also felt something else: relief, and for the first time in months, a real sense of clarity. I didn't just want to forget her. I wanted to remember what it felt like to be myself again. The betrayal had been like a betrayal of everything I thought I knew about trust, love, and loyalty. But sitting there, staring at the empty space where she used to be, I realized I'd taken back my power. I'd faced her, exposed her, and walked away without allowing her lies to drown me. That mattered more than I could say. I called a friend that evening, someone I'd known for years, and told him everything. I didn't hold anything back. His response was simple but powerful. "You did the right thing. She betrayed you, and now you're free." I felt that truth settle into my bones. I'd been holding on to her for too long, pretending the pain would go away, but it wouldn't. Not until I let it. I also made a decision. I was going to focus on myself. I started going to the gym again, taking long walks at sunset and reconnecting with old hobbies I'd neglected. For so long, I'd been caught up in her lies and plans. Now I was reclaiming my time, my energy, my life. It wasn't easy. Some nights I still felt that ache in my chest, that emptiness where her voice used to be. But each day was a little easier. The most surprising thing was how much better I felt. The weight of betrayal was still there, sure, but it no longer dominated my thoughts. Instead, I'd find myself thinking about the future, my future without her. It was raw and uncertain, but it was mine. For the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to imagine happiness on my own terms. Looking back, I see all the red flags I ignored. The late nights, the secretive texts, the excuses she made when I asked questions. I see how I was blind in love, how I let her manipulate my trust. But I also see the strength I found in walking away. That was the real victory. There's a lesson here I want everyone to know. Trust is fragile and betrayal cuts deep. But you're stronger than you think. If someone shows you who they really are, no matter how hard it hurts, believe them. Don't wait for the pain to pile up. Cut the toxicity out, even if it's painful at first. Because in the end, living a life full of lies isn't living at all. It's just surviving. I'll admit I still get angry sometimes, at her, at Jason, at myself for not seeing it sooner. But that anger is now a fuel, not a fire that consumes me. It reminds me that I survived, that I am capable of rebuilding from ashes, and that in the end I am enough. So if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, betrayed, lied to, used, remember this: you have the power to walk away. You don't need closure from them. You only need to reclaim what's yours, your dignity, your peace, your future. Because no matter how dark it gets, light always finds a way back in. You just have to be brave enough to let it.